Hi folks, dude, balls, whatever. Today I've got a really messed up ball because what I'm going to talk about today is really messed up. It's about January 6th and it's something that I guarantee you have never heard before. Is it true? Well, I'm not going to pass it off completely as real news because that's what the other side does. But does it make sense? Does it seem plausible? Is it as appalling as you might imagine? Judge for yourself on today's edition of
This Dude Has Balls.
Okay, so we know a lot about what happened on January 6th. There was a January 6th commission. There's been lots of reporting. It's been, 4 or 5 years since January 6th. And as we know, it was an insurrection on the Capitol inspired by Donald Trump to enrage those who thought the election was stolen, even though it was not. Now, with all that we know about that day, there is one thing that seems to be absent completely from all the reporting, and that is, what was Donald Trump doing in those 3 hours before he made the speech to call off the dogs? There's been a lot of talk about the fact that he did sit for 3 hours and did not act. But what was he really doing during those 3 hours? That's what no one seems to know or no one seems to say. And I have a thought about that, and I'm going to share it with you right now. When Donald Trump made that speech and enraged the masses exactly as he hoped they would, to come storming into the Capitol, maybe to disrupt the counting of the votes, whatever it was, get a thrill out of his own power to get people to do crazy stuff, right? He was sitting somewhere in the White House. I think someone said it was the kitchen or the dining room, and he sat and he was watching television. That's sort of all we really know. And he sat and he watched it all unfold on television before 3 hours later he finally put a stop to it. Now, in my opinion, what Donald Trump did is a little bit like what a pyromaniac does when he starts a fire. When a pyromaniac starts a fire, he often goes to a spot where he can watch the fire that he set. And a lot of doctors say that a pyro gets a sexual thrill from looking at the destruction that he's causing. I would argue that Donald Trump, in those initial time period after this began, he was in the White House watching TV, and yes, he was getting a sexual thrill from that experience. Now, why 3 hours? Why that amount of time before he finally made the speech or the call or whatever it was that put a stop to all of this? Well, when you think about it, Donald Trump is a man. He's in his 70s. And what is it that would take about 3 hours after, I think he did it again. He did it twice. And after the second time, he was pretty much done. And at that point, there was no reason to keep watching, and he put a stop to it. Yes, as sick and twisted as you think Donald Trump is or was, it's even worse than you think. He started a fire, he sat in the White House dining room, and he gratified himself, not once, but a second time, about 3 hours later. As always, do not like, do not subscribe, don't do any of that stuff. That stuff doesn't matter, and I don't care. That's it for today on This Dude's Got Balls.